today we are going to discuss abstract window toolkit. Abstract window toolkit is for designing graphical user interfaces in Java. GUI, as you know, when you are interacting with the desktop, you have your mouse, your keyboard, then a number of icons are there on the desktop. If you want to select them, you can use either your mouse or keyboard for that. That means, or in a form you can have a submit button, or you can type in the text area. Button fields are there, then pop-up menus are there, menu items are there. So all these things can be accomplished using abstract window toolkit or AWT. And nowadays it is replaced by swing. Now our focus is on abstract window toolkit. Okay. Now, abstract window toolkit was Java's first GUI or graphical user interface framework, and it has been part of Java since version 1.0. That means from the first version onwards, AWT is there. It contains numerous classes and methods that allow you to create windows and simple controls. Java AWT is an API application programming interface to develop GUI or window-based application in Java. Java AWT components are platform dependent. That means components are displayed according to the view of the operating system. AWT is heavyweight. That means it is not lightweight. Its component uses the resources of the system. Java.awt package provides classes for AWT application programming interface such as text field, label, text area, radio button, checkbox, choice list, etc. These are all part of the Java AWT package. Now, here this is the class hierarchy, and object is on top and component is an object. Component is a class, is a subclass of object, and everything is derived from that object. That is the base class of Java, and component is a subclass of object, and component is having various subclasses like button, label, checkbox, choice list. A number of other components are also there. These are all components. Button is a component. Label, checkbox, choice list, and container are components. But container means it's a container of components. That means if container is a component, and in that container it can accommodate all these components. That means if you have a container, then you can pack buttons, labels, checkbox, all these things inside that container. That means container itself is a component, and container can accommodate, or in that you can have a number of buttons, labels, checkbox. All these components can be inside a container. And window and panel are subclasses of container. As you know, window means what you see in window, that's actually a frame, and from window you can derive either a frame or a dialog box. In window you cannot have menu items and border lines, but in frame you can have everything. That means it's a type of container, and in that frame you can have buttons, labels, checkbox, all these things you can accommodate, or you can put inside a frame as well as in a dialog box. And if you are using an applet, then applet is a subclass of panel, and panel is a container. Panel is a container, and that's all about the class hierarchy of various components of abstract window toolkit or AWT. Now, these are different terms which are used in AWT. Component means component is an object having a graphical representation that can be displayed on the screen and that can interact with the user. For example, buttons, checkboxes, list, scroll bars of a user interface, canvas, etc. are components. Container means container object is a component that can contain other components. Okay, what about a panel? Panel provides space in which an application can attach any other components including panels. What about window? Window is a rectangular area which is displayed on the screen. It in different windows we can execute different programs and display different data. That means um, windows are used for multitasking. For example, suppose that if you have a browser, then in the browser you can have different tabs of this, different tabs, and in each browser window you can browse different sites. Okay, so in that case you are actually multitasking. What about frame? A frame is a top level window with a title and a border. Okay, the size of the frame includes any area designated for the border. Frame encapsulates window. It has a title bar, menu bar, borders, and resizing corners. Canvas. What about canvas? In a canvas, uh, you can sketch. Canvas command represent a blank rectangular area of the screen on which you can your application can draw. Okay. Then, what about component? At the top of the AWT hierarchy is the component class. Component is an abstract class that encapsulates all of the attributes of visual components. That means for all components, whether it is button, checkbox, radio button, etc., container, the superclass is component, and component is a subclass of object. Except for menus, all user interface elements that are displayed on the screen and that interact with the user are subclass of component. It defines over 100 public methods that are responsible for managing events such as mouse, keyboard input, positioning and resizing, sizing of windows, repainting. So a component object is responsible for remembering the current foreground and background colors and currently selected text font. What about container? Container class is a subclass of component. Just additional methods that allow other component objects to be nested within. That means a container can include other components. That means if you are deriving a container from a component, then you can include just like our containers. Okay, that means component objects can be filled in that container. A container is a component in AWT that can contain another components like buttons, text fields, labels, etc. The classes that extends container class are known as containers such as frame, dialog and panel. That means these frames, dialog and dialog boxes and panels are subclasses of containers. A container is responsible for laying out. Laying out means suppose that in a container you want to accommodate a number of components and how to the layout of the components. That means the where we have to put this button, where is the text area, where does that radio button to be. All these things are done by the uh, done by the appropriate layout. Okay, border layout, then a number of layouts are there. Okay, window class creates a top level window. A top level window is not contained within any other object. It's directly on the desktop. Generally you won't create window objects directly. Instead you will use a subclass of window called frame, described next. That means at the end of the day, every window is actually it's a frame. It's not a window. Actually we are going to have a frame or a dialog box and or an applet. That means these things are which you can see on a desktop. That means GUI. Okay, the window is the container that have no borders and menu bars. You must use frame, dialog or another window for creating a window. Panel. A panel class is a concrete subclass of container. By concrete means nothing can be derived from it. That means everything is implemented in that panel, and you can have a subclass of that. Panel is that means nothing can be overridden if you are creating a subclass from a concrete class. Panel is a superclass of applet. Panel is a window that does not contain a title bar, menu bar or border. That means nothing is there in it in a panel. Other components can be added to a panel object by add method. That means inside that add, you have to pass that object if you want to add that component to this panel. Once these components have been added, you can position and resize them manually using the set location, set size, set preferred size or set bounds methods defined by components. Frame. Frame encapsulates what is commonly thought of as window. So actually what you see as a window is actually a frame. It is a subclass of window and has a title bar, menu bar, borders and resizing corners. Precise look of the frame will differ among environments. A number of environments are described in the screen captures. Okay. The frame is the container that contains title bar and can have menu bars. It can have other components like buttons, text field, etc. Useful methods of component class. That means all these are inherited. So in all the components you can use this. That means void component add component C means inserts a component on this component. Set size sets the size of the component. Set layout means defines the layout manager of the component. When set visible means changes the visibility of the component by default false. Okay. Now these are the controls usually used as far as AWT is concerned. Label means if you want a label object is a component for placing text in a container. Button means it's a push button. This class creates a labeled button. Checkbox group, list, text field, text area, choice, canvas, image control, scroll bar control, dialog box, all these are components. So if you want to if you want, suppose that if you want to develop a GUI, then you have to go through the details of all this. See, this is a simple Java AWT frame example. This I will tell you and I will show you how this is working. Import java.awt star. If you want to use AWT components, then you have to use or import this package java.awt star. Means everything from java.awt package has to be imported. Class first instance frame. That means here first is a subclass of frame and the next line first without any parameters means that is a constructor. In that constructor you are going to define a button and the label for that button is click me. B dot set sounds, that means the x and xy position of the starting, and that means there are 4 parameters. Set bounds, that means initially 330 and 300, these are the x and y coordinates of starting of that button. Then the length, height and width of, that means width of the button is 80 and height is 30, width and height of the button. Add B means once you have created that button object, you are going to add this to the current object. That means current object is the frame first, which is an extension of our which is a subclass of frame, and in that frame you are going to add this button, that is add B, add this button into the frame. Then set size 300 means the frame size, that means length and width and height of this frame is 300 by 300. Then set layout, that means you are not going to use any layouts. Set visible equal to true means after using that once you are set visible is equal to true, then what will happen? Then that will be displayed. Okay. So next line is public static void main. So you are going to create a first object. F is equal to new first means you are going to create a first object. Okay. This is first.java and I have saved it as first.java, and I will show you what will happen if this is executed. That means Java first. I have already compiled it. So this is the one, that means this is a frame and in that frame you have, see here, button, basically new button click me. That means you have defined a new button B, and the label for that button is click me, that is given here. And b dot set bounds, that means it is 30. That means this distance is 30 and this is 100. That means from this location onwards the width is 80 and the height is 30. So here you have a click me label, and if you press that, nothing is going to happen because the event handler before that is not working, we have not defined that. So this is the way you're going to execute, or this is a frame. Okay.